What was expected to be a decisive ruling on the leadership crisis in the African Democratic Congress (ADC) ended without a judgment. At the Supreme Court in Abuja, the five-member panel led by Justice Mohammed Garba declined to proceed with the matter after counsel to David Mark, Jubu Okutepa San, failed to file a written brief of arguments, a key requirement for the hearing of the case. The brief, which ought to have been served on both the respondents and the justices, had not been filed since the appeal was entered on March 31st.
Well, the backdrop to what transpired in courts today is essentially the application of the appellant, that is Senator David Mark, requesting the Supreme Court to grant a stay of execution of the judgment of the Court of Appeal. They also sought alternative reliefs to restrain INEC, from enforcing the judgment of the Court of Appeal, amongst other reliefs that they asked. So I don't know, for whatever the reason may be, they have compiled and transmitted their record since the 31st of March. That's more than 14 days ago. They did not file a brief of argument. But the Supreme Court really bent over backwards to accommodate accelerated hearing of this appeal because there was no formal application before the courts. The interest was essentially to just get a stay of execution of the orders of the Court of Appeal.
Following an appeal of leniency, the court granted the counsel to David Mark 24 hours to file the brief, describing the case as sensitive and deserving of accelerated hearing. Respondents, including Naifu Gombe, Rauf Arebeshola, Ralph Wonsu, and Independent National Electoral Commission, were given 3 days to respond.
I rather brought before my lords a situation of extreme urgency and a situation that is of fundamental importance to democratic growth. And you can see that they also appreciated that position and are bent backward to give me 1 day to file my brief and give the other party 3 days to file.
But counsel to Naifu Gombe, the first respondent, Robert Emupero, questioned the failure by David Mark's counsel to file the brief despite having more than 2 weeks. He noted that the Supreme Court had shown unusual flexibility to fast-track the matter. The counsel explained that what David Mark's appeal seeks is to halt enforcement of an earlier Court of Appeal judgment and restrain INEC from recognizing a rival leadership.
The Supreme Court gave the order that the case will be accelerated, and they were basically given less than 24 hours to file their brief, which is tomorrow. We were given 3 days to file our own brief, even though we requested for 5 days. And now the appeal itself, on the basis of the notice of appeal that they filed on the 16th of March, is fixed for the 22nd of April for definite hearing by the Supreme Court.
The court has adjourned the case to April 22nd for definite hearing, warning that the matter could have been concluded if all parties had complied with the procedural requirements. With multiple suits pending in different courts and factions still laying claim to the party structure, there are expectations that the Supreme Court could give judgment the same day as it begins a definite hearing of the appeal. The outcome of the appeal at the Supreme Court could also settle 2 other issues. That is whether the suit in the lower courts could proceed any further and whether David Mark will remain the national chairman of the African Democratic Congress.